No, it's possible to get out of the Monocrows after the door is locked at night.
What? Sora, are you just doing this for fun now? It is a proven fact that...
It was a proven fact. While it may have been impossible on the first island, things have changed since then, and you can now get out through the balcony on the 4th floor hallway.
Ja, eben.
Oh, that's right. The balcony's door was opened while we were sailing to this current island.
Das war in der 4. Etage war dieser Balkon anscheinend, ne? Ich hatte die Theorie, dass diese Mordnachricht, also die Sterbenachricht bedeuten könnte Etage 1 und Etage 0, aber das war ja sogar in der 4. Etage. Huch.
But the 4th floor of the Monocrows is pretty high up, isn't it? If she jumped out at that height...
Stimmt, wir haben das ja sogar besprochen.
Then what if she didn't jump? What if she had a rope-like thing to climb down?
Oh, come off it, Yuki. Now you're just being ridiculous. Nobody went out through the balcony like that.
Wir haben ja von Shinji gehört, dass irgendjemand ein weißer Stofftuch oder so genutzt hat, ne? Deswegen das hier.
Excuse me, Shinji?
Oh, yeah? Why do you need me all of a sudden?
Do you remember telling me that morning how you thought you saw something on the side of the balcony while on your morning jog?
Oh! You mean that? Yeah, I think I saw something like a big, long cloth being rolled up.
Well, Emma, unless you're prepared to call Shinji a liar, wouldn't you say this proves someone could escape through the balcony at night? Sure, it would only be a one-way trip, but Hajime already proved it's possible to sneak back inside the Monocrows. As long as the killer snuck back inside the moment the cruise doors reopened, they wouldn't be noticed, allowing them to achieve a perfect crime.
Ja, eben. Boah, ich muss sagen, ich habe echt schon mega Angst vor dem Closing-Argument gleich.
Perhaps what Big Bro saw was the killer quickly retrieving the rope-like thing upon their return.
Seriously? That's just a hypothesis. You can't stake your claim like that.
But Shinji said he saw it that same day, didn't he? Yep. That sounds like a plausible means of escape to me. Wow. So many pieces pointing at Emma. Surely even you must realize that this goes a bit beyond a series of coincidences, correct?
Ja, ich wüsste jetzt auch nicht, wer es sonst noch sein könnte zu diesem Zeitpunkt.
Emma? Did you really? No way. So Emmy really did.
To sum up, the killer could enter Kokoros' room freely from that morning, so we had no choice but to recognize the disguised Kokoro as the real thing. And that was what made us believe that the case was a locked room murder when she unexplainably died.
If you're not satisfied yet, allow me to point out another reason to doubt Emma. Since the performance, she's made quite a scene about having lost her appetite. She hasn't finished a meal since that day. Why do you think that may be?
Gute Frage.
Because if she's the killer, she'd have to act as Coco. She requested to have food delivered to her room 3 times a day.
Oh, ja, genau.
As a result, Coco would have to be in her room during those periods. However, in order to not raise suspicion, Him herself needed to join us for meals. So she came up with an excuse to leave the dining hall as soon as possible and set up the disguise.
Das hatte ich gar nicht bedacht.
Come to think of it, that would also explain why she gave such specific times for food to be delivered. At the time, we all just assumed it was part of Kokoro's meticulous nature, but that too was a ploy from the disguised killer. By setting such precise times, she could decrease the risk of an unexpected situation.
It all adds up.
You really are all going to doubt me until the very end.
Ja, ich meine, wer soll es jetzt noch sein, ne?
Even despite overlooking a crucial detail?
We've accommodated for every detail and covered all evidence. So please shut your mouth and stop putting up this pitiful defense.
No, this detail is yet to be accounted for. I even mentioned it earlier.
Vielleicht gibt es noch etwas?
Allow me to illustrate the final point on why it was completely impossible for me to disguise myself as Kokoro.
Okay, sie hat noch etwas zu sagen. Ihre Verteidigung endet noch nicht. Ich meine, ich respektiere es, aber keine Ahnung, was du jetzt noch sagen könntest, was unsere Meinung ändern würde.
So you're saying I disguised myself as Kokoro?
Ja.
That's utterly impossible.
Sie sagt, es wäre
I'm
unmöglich.
an actress, not a voice actor. I couldn't mimic her voice.
Ja, aber deswegen war doch die Krankheit
Are you
da.
also going to ignore the height discrepancy? I'm over 20 centimeters taller than her. It'd be obvious that it wasn't the real Kokoro.
Das haben wir doch alle schon besprochen.
Of course, the two inconsistencies could be explained by the disease.
Ja, eben.
But would I really be able to impersonate her if it weren't for the said disease? Remember, she was diagnosed the morning after the performance. The culprit would have had to prepare the disguise the night before. How would the culprit have known about Kokoro's condition in advance?
Ja, du.
Or without it. There was no other way to overcome the difference in height and voice. She had a rare endemic disease. How could you possibly suggest the culprit would have been predicting something like that?
Ich glaube nicht.
Unless the culprit was some omniscient god. I'm putting an end to this disguise theory.
Ich glaube, dass auch du dafür verantwortlich warst, du. Aber kann ich das irgendwie beweisen? Moment, was ist denn hier? Trockeneis, Yukis Aussage. Ich kann jetzt nicht... Okay, Kokoros Handbook. Ich konnte das nicht mal lesen, weil der Text davor war. Shobai... Was war denn schon mal Shobais Aussage? Ich muss das mal anschauen. Nein, ich wollte... Ah! Shobais Aussage war nochmal was? Genau. Halt mal die Klappe da hinten jetzt. So. Ja gut. Könnte es vielleicht sein, dass als Shobai, als er dort war, um die Krankheit sich anzuschauen, war das dann schon Emma oder war es immer noch Koko? Vielleicht gab es nie diese Krankheit. Vielleicht war es von Anfang an Emma. Ich meine, in derselben Nacht ist doch schon Kokoro quasi gestorben, oder nicht? Am selben Tag des Konzerts. Das heißt, es gab vielleicht nie eine Krankheit. Ich glaube, ich brauche die Aussage von Shobai. Oder? Das ist ein krasser Twist irgendwie.
Of course, the two would I really remember? The culprit would have had. How would the culprit have before without it? She had a rare endemic disease. How could you possibly suggest? No, that's wrong.
Wollt ihr mir sagen, Kokoro hatte nie diese Krankheit oder so? Aber sie ist ja trotzdem an diesem Tag ohnmächtig geworden. Die Person, die dort ohnmächtig geworden ist, war ja trotzdem Kokoro und nicht Emma. Was ist denn dann passiert? Also jetzt mal angenommen, diese Krankheit hat nie existiert, was mich zum Teil sogar, also wenn das so ist, dann freut mich das, weil die dann nicht so grausam gestorben ist, wie ich angenommen habe, aber... Das war alles nur ein Akt,
Wait, Emma, stop. What was that about an endemic disease?
Huh? What about it?
That's weird. Those who weren't with us at Shobai's examination shouldn't have known that Kokoro was specifically suffering from an endemic disease.
Ja gut, aber das hätte ja jemand ihr sagen können.
Those who weren't with us?
Everyone except me, Ra-Ra, Yuko, and you. Excluding Dr. Shobai and patient Yuko, of course.
Dr. Shobai.
You weren't there, Emma. So do you mind telling us how you knew it was an endemic disease?
What are you talking about? You mentioned the disease in the dining hall, right?
No. We only said that the disease was a rare one, not an endemic one.
Darauf habe ich jetzt nicht geachtet.
What?
Not to worry, Emma. I'm sure you've heard it somewhere. Perhaps in Kokoro's bed as that very patient.
Das war da schon Emma. Die ganze Zeit war es Emma. Die ganze Zeit hatte ich Mitleid mit Emma. Oh, Jesus, was für ein genialer Fall eigentlich.
Slip of the tongue so far in. Don't look now, but I think someone needs to fix their makeup. Is that sweat I see?
Oh dear. You can't take it back now.
Ja, aber ich verstehe trotzdem nicht, wie Kokoro dann gestorben ist. Ich meine, wie sie gestorben ist, okay, aber was ist denn dann während des Konzerts passiert?
Well now, hang on. Let me clarify I was speaking hypothetically. She might have been suffering from an endemic disease.
Ja, das läuft jetzt hier nicht mehr so, du.
What? Seriously?
You see, given the tropical nature of the islands we've been trapped on, my mind instantly assumed it was an endemic disease. I suppose that was my fault for assuming. But you really cannot convict me for a misunderstanding.
Oh, come on! I work in journalism, and even I have to admit that's real.
Ja, selbst er weiß es, du.
Assumptions or otherwise, aren't you ignoring the obvious? The issue isn't about the type of disease. It's about how I knew of it in advance. According to your theory, anyway.
It's a fair point. To fit with the timeline, the culprit would have been preparing the disguise long before Kokoro's diagnosis. And had Kokoro not fallen ill, the plan wouldn't have worked. There's no way someone could have predicted that.
Diese Krankheit hat nie existiert, ich sag es euch.
Do you understand now? With this, the entire disguise theory falls apart.
Also, es war zumindest keine Krankheit. Irgendjemand hat da was gemacht und diese Person warst du, oder?
Ah, yes, the infamous disease. Let's talk about that for a moment, shall we? Since Emma seems so fixated on it, and she is the ultimate actress. What if this disease was also another part of her act?
Nur ein Teil ihres Akts, diese Krankheit.
What do you mean?
Even if Emma was disguised as Kokoro, wasn't Shobai the one who diagnosed her disease?
Oh, Moment. Sag mir nicht, dass Emma ihm alles gesagt hat und ihm das, weil sie ihn bezahlt hat, halt einfach nichts gesagt. Oh, nee, komm.
Oh, is that true? Then let's ask the man himself. The good doctor has been awfully quiet throughout this trial.
Ihr wollt mir sagen, dass Shobai die ganze Zeit das wusste? Von Anfang an wusste er das und er hat es nicht gesagt, weil Geld im Oh, nee, komm. Du bist so ein Assi, Alter.
Oh, he's still here? I thought that was just a cardboard cutout.
Er ist so ein Assi.
Yoo-hoo! Anybody in there?
I'm busy right now. Can I ignore you later? Some of us are actually getting on with more important shit. I'm running some numbers through my head. Got more than 20 business deals I need to take care of. Since I'm stuck wasting my life on this rock.
Dieser Typ ist so ein großer Assi, das hab selbst ich kaum gesehen.
This isn't real. Does he even realize how important this trial is?
Shobai, I'm sorry to bother you, but we need to ask you something.
Now what? You guys have already figured out the killer, right? Hurry up and get to the voting already. At this point, you're just dragging things out. Nobody with a functioning brain is interested in this anymore.
Oh, okay.
We're not voting until we've cleared up every shred of doubt. So stop whining and let me ask my question. Before the investigation had even concluded, you claimed to have solved the crime, remember? You deduced the killer almost immediately, noting that they had made a huge mistake.
He said that?
Das hat er gesagt.
Shobai, this concerns you as much as it concerns us. Was your examination genuine?
No, I might be a piece of work, but as a broker, I take great pride in what I do. And that includes what the job stands for. That checkup wasn't a favor. I was hired to do it. It was business.
Es war Business.
What are you trying to say?
Client confidentiality, kid. Never disclose any details about the client or the deal. As a broker, that's my #1 rule.
Er will es uns also nicht sagen.
This is a class trial! Are you really gonna stick to that creek crap when your life is at stake?
Of course not. Nothing's more important to me than my own life. But that doesn't change... screw it. I'm technically not breaking that rule by coming clean here. My client was Kokoro Mitsume, a woman who's now legally dead. And I ain't got no problem with snitching on a corpse.
Ja gut, so könnte man das natürlich auch sehen, ne?
Shobai, wait!
Kokoro Mitsume came to me with a request. The details are as follows. I was attacked by a void.
Sie wurde von einem Void angegriffen.
I want to expose the void who attacked me, so please make a fraudulent examination for my safety. Finally, deliver said fraudulent examination to anyone who asks.
Huh.
And that's it.
I said wait!
What? So, Kokoro really was never sick at all?
Also ich muss sagen, ich wurde hier die ganze Zeit echt getäuscht, ne? Das ist echt irgendwie schon ziemlich brillant, oder?
That's the big question, isn't it? After all, we now know that request was not made by the real Kokoro in the first place.
You said that you knew who the killer was, Shobai. Were you able to infer that from the request alone?
Yeah, there was a lot that wasn't adding up. Since I take pride in my client confidentiality, she could have easily spoken to me normally, when it was just us two. And yet, she still insisted on using her iPad to communicate. That ain't all, though. Emma Magarobi said something strange, too. Right after Kokoro Mitsume collapsed and you'd all gathered round her, she specifically said that her body was scorching hot. Why did she say so when Kokoro Mitsume was attacked by the void and not suffering a disease?
Ja, guter Punkt.
Maybe she got burnt with wounds. If you think about it, everything we did was based on Emma saying she had a fever. After taking her to the room, we only gave her medicine and placed a wet towel on her forehead, which you'd only do if she was ill, not wounded. Well, well, well. It seems Emma had already begun baiting us.
Die ganze Zeit war es ihr Plan.
Starting small with a fever, making us believe she's sick, than having Shobai's phony diagnosis as the nail in the coffin.
And of course, none of us ever remotely considered the possibility of the disease being fabricated.
Ey, ich schwöre, ich habe die ganze Zeit ihm geglaubt. Die ganze Zeit habe ich ihm geglaubt. Ich bin so ein Vollidiot, hey.
Wow. Just wow. I wasn't even there and that story sounds suspicious. A healthy person suddenly gets paralyzed by an unknown endemic disease? Seriously, guys? I expected more.
Und ich war so traurig deswegen, hey. Wenn Kokoro normal gestorben ist, okay, ist eine andere Geschichte, aber... Ey, ich war so deprimant.
I see. She carefully selected her words to make a subtle shift from healthy to unhealthy. That way, the diagnosis came as less of a shock.
Diese Klassenverhandlung hat den gesamten Fall komplett verändert irgendwie.
But ironically, that was what tipped Shobai off.
What do you mean?
The two statements directly contradicted each other. Emma Magarobi said it was a fever. Kokoro Mitsume said it was an attack. Granted, the disguise fooled even me at the time, but as soon as the body showed up, it all fell into place.
Also Shobai wusste es wohl schon die ganze Zeit, huh?
It was Emma Magarobi in the dorm room with the disguise. Final answer.
Also ich glaube, Shobai sollte man nicht unterschätzen. Der kann schon ein bisschen was. Ich weiß nicht, wie lange er überleben wird, aber nun ja.
We just wasted hours going back and forth, old man. Why didn't you say this earlier?
Ja, das hätte uns irgendwie geholfen, ne?
I told you, I live by my own moral code, shorty. But since you guys have pretty much done the elbow work, and my client is legally dead, I figured I'd come clean. So there you have it. Your last shred of doubt, all cleared up.
That's checkmate, Emma. No encore for you.
No, wait a minute.
Game over, Emma.
You must understand. I'm not the killer.
Also ich glaube, jetzt haben wir es wirklich ausreichend besprochen. Wurde jedes Trockeneis eigentlich mittlerweile erwähnt? Nee, oder?
I'm sorry, Em, but I think you're the only one who believes that now.
Even I didn't want to believe Kanade at first. My reasoning is perfect. There's no room for doubt.
No, we're not done yet. We haven't discussed how the killer dealt with the body. I was outside of the room when the body was discovered, so I couldn't have anything to do with it.
Seriously, Emma? You could do that treatment in the morning. Once you were done with your disguise, there'd be no need to open the door for us, so you could do your job whether somebody else visited or not.
By job, you mean the final step, yeah?
That's right. Take the frozen Kokoro out of the refrigerator and cut off every hand and foot to hide the severed fingertip.
If I did that, then the room would have been full of blood, wouldn't it? And yet, there was no such trace.
Have you already forgotten her body was completely frozen? There'd be no risk of blood being spilt anywhere. At most, the flesh would have been disturbed. I'm gonna be sick.
Die Frage ist aber schon so ein bisschen, wo überhaupt die Körperteile hin sind. Einfach in ihrem Zimmer oder was?
Once that was all done, all you needed to do was return the refrigerator dividers back to their original position, then slap a liquid nitrogen labeled drum down as a distraction. Finally, get out of the room and mission accomplished.
Hang on, that doesn't make sense. Kokoro was frozen by the instant freeze mode of the refrigerator, wasn't she? Not by the liquid nitrogen. Regardless of how long you freeze something, expose it to room temperature for a few hours and it'd melt on you.
Ja.
I do recall seeing some blood emanating from Miss Mitsume's severed limbs.
Yeah, barely. If it was melting normally, we should have seen a lot more.
Dafür wird wahrscheinlich das Trockeneis genutzt, oder? Oh ja, okay, jetzt ergibt es Sinn. Hier.
Got it. Nikkei, that's because the killer used dry ice.
Dry ice?
When the body was first discovered, the room was unusually cold and covered in a thick mist. At first we believed it was the liquid nitrogen, but it was actually dry ice.
Ich weiß nicht so genau, wie Trockeneis funktioniert, um ehrlich zu sein.
We found a bag of it at the crime scene.
She maintains the temperature with dry ice in order to prevent the frozen body from melting.
How about it, Emma? Finally ready to give in? Emmy.
Wie sieht's aus, huh?
What did I ever do to deserve this?
Du hast eine Person umgebracht, Mann.
I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted Kokoro. These are all just coincidences. I didn't kill her. I swear to you.
Someone shut her up already. Give it a rest, woman. You lost.
Ja, wenn selbst Shobai das sagt, ne?
You believe me, don't you? I could never kill Kokoro.
Nee, du. Schon seit Anfang des Kapitels verdächtige ich dich.
Please convince them for me. We're all walking into a trap.